Please join me in a rousing round of applause for André Chapman.
Well, hello, everybody. So first of all, thank you, as I am humbly honored to receive this award for community service. Let me first thank Steve, the HIF Board of Directors, and the phenomenal staff that put on this amazing event. Also, congratulations to Stan and Wendy, the other awardees. I want to first begin by acknowledging my family, my wonderful mother, my gorgeous wife, my two amazing young sons. Well, they're not young anymore, but since Stan talked about St. Francis, they're Bellarmine kids, so my two... And one of my son's girlfriends, so thank you for your unwavering support. Please let me share a story about a young man named Carl Wiseman, who came to live at one of Unity Care's treatment homes when he was 14 years old. Carl had lost both his parents to AIDS when he was just 4 years old, and unfortunately that brought him and his sister into foster care. Carl had an infectious smile, an energetic personality, stunning green eyes, which was his nickname. Carl had his challenges, like most foster kids separated from family, traumatized from bouncing around from foster home to foster home, school to school. But Carl began to stabilize and began to become more in tune to his own self. And Carl then, through therapy and support, began to do well. Carl eventually graduated from Unity Care and high school at age 18. One of the things that we all see in young folks that are in foster care systems, they all want to reconnect with family, to fill that hole in their heart called love. So Carl found relatives, cousins of his that lived in Reno, and moved out there with him. Unfortunately, 8 months later, Carl was back in San Jose, but this time homeless. Eventually, he was accepted into our transitional housing program for young adults ages 18 to 20, but then aged out on his 21st birthday, where he found himself homeless again. Bouncing between shelters, couch surfing, sleeping in our lobby, in his car, in the county jail, and on the streets. He would drop by our office about once a quarter just to check in, sharing his challenges of trying to keep a job, go to school, while being homeless. One day, I received a call from a former client telling me that Carl was at O'Connor Hospital in the intensive care unit. I was shocked. So I went to the hospital, and when I got to the ICU unit, the nurse asked if I was family. And I said, yes, I'm Carl's uncle. You see, because most kids in the program, when they leave, they refer to me as their uncle. Because oftentimes they're embarrassed to have grown up in the foster care system. The nurse told me that Carl had pneumonia and was in a coma on life support. So I prepared myself before I walked in the room. And when I went into the room, Carl had tubes everywhere. I sat next to Carl. I put my hand on his hand, and I began talking to him. But he gave me no sign that he heard me. I began telling Carl how much of a blessing he was, his compassion for others, his care for others, his fortitude, his courage. I even laughed with him about the last thing he had shared with me when I saw him just 6 or 7 months earlier. Before I left, I closed my eyes and I prayed over Carl. And when I opened my eyes, I saw a tear come down Carl's face. So I knew his spirit heard me. I then contacted his family, and I found Carl's sister, who was living in Texas, and sent for her. She hadn't seen her brother in 10 years. She was there every day and every night at the hospital. That sibling connection was still powerful. But unfortunately, 3 weeks later, Carl died of congestive heart failure at the young age of just 24. What was remarkable, but also very sad, was a community rally. Foundations, the county social workers, churches. We raised $5,000 in less than a week to bury Carl. But imagine if we had raised $5,000 to pay for more housing. Carl would most likely be with us today. I'm sharing this story as the motivation for why we're here tonight. The commitment of HIF to do more, to serve more, and each one of you in this room to do more. Because it is my belief that collectively, just look around, we live in the mecca of technology. The brightest, the smartest, the wealthiest region on the globe. So together, surely we can solve this public health crisis of young folks aging out of foster care to the streets. Some of you may be aware, in California, less than 5,000 kids age out of foster care every year. About 300 right here in Santa Clara County. But it's like compound interest. It keeps adding up year after year after year. In the Bay Area, 75%, that's 3 out of 4 young folks that you guys see on the streets today, were once in the foster care or juvenile justice system. And the majority of those kids look like my kids, my young adults, black and brown. Right here in San Jose, we have the highest number of homeless young adults between 18 to 24 in the nation. More than New York, more than Los Angeles, more than San Francisco. These kids make up the fastest growing homeless population, the fastest growing prison population, and we know that homelessness and hopelessness is the mother of crime. So let me ask everyone a question. I want each of you right now to think about your kids, your nephews, your nieces, your grandkids. Visualize them. And if today any of them are over the age of 20 and you still provide housing, financial support, or psychological safety, what I call that psychological safety net, I want you to raise your hand. Now everybody look around for a second. Thank you. Now some of you may have thought about doing this, but imagine calling them when you get home tonight and saying, today is the last time I'm going to help you. Don't call me anymore. No more support. What would happen to them? Think about that for a second. What would happen to them? Well, that's unfortunately what happens every day to kids that age out of foster care. They are abandoned with no parachute, no safety net, no oxygen mask, no life preserver. They are on their own with the expectation that miraculously they're going to be able to survive adulthood without family support or community support. So for the past 30 years, I've had the privilege of leading Unity Care, an agency that I founded when I was 10 years old, that has served over 60,000 youth and families, providing housing, employment, education, mental health services, and family support throughout Northern California. And HIF has been one of our premier, I'm gonna say that again, premier supporters, providing renovations to our homes and our apartment units across the Bay Area. Last July, I stepped down as CEO And I took a sabbatical. I traveled to Washington, to Virginia, to Israel, and to Ghana to trace my roots from slavery to present. Planning for my next hill that I'm going to climb. What's my next chapter? What is God calling me to do? Because I believe that we all share a common principle, that the children are our future. So tonight, I'm officially announcing my new organization called Fostering Promise, an advocacy agency whose mission is to go upstream and fix the broken policies to ensure that no young person ages out of foster care without a safe place to call home, a hope for a promising future, and a caring mentor. Because I am confident that together, through compassion and love, love thy neighbor as thyself, and the strong partnerships between HIF, Unity Care, Fostering Promise, and everybody in this room, we can ensure that no young person leaves foster care and ends up on the streets. So tonight, I am saying to you, join us in that journey. Join HIF, go deeper, be committed, because we can solve this issue. Thank you.